Shooting it raw?
Yes. Shooting it raw. So the photo is absolutely fantastic. So it's you standing on stage. You're wearing a black sort of t-shirt with a blue blazer jacket on it. You're looking at the audience. Behind you is a slide and it might say inspire. All I see is inspire. Yeah. And it's like you're obviously giving a presentation. Maybe it's a TED talk. It has that kind of feel. You have a mic on your lapel. You're looking at the audience. You're mid-word, so your mouth is open and the energy is just like radiating. Yeah. What is this?
That's the new me. That's kind of the repackaged, re-engineered me. Now I'm doing a lot of professional speaking. I do a lot of keynote speaking. That talk was from an event called Cause Camp. Bunch of nonprofit leaders that gathered in Sandusky, Ohio. And so that was just my presentation from there. And I love that picture just because it does kind of represent the energy that I'm trying to bring to the room. So that was a keynote talk speaking to a bunch of nonprofit leaders about how can we live the safari way, which is kind of my shtick. I'm known now as the safari dude. I've been on a number of African safaris. And so I talk to people through the lens of an African safari. Like, life is this great adventure. Life is a safari. Nonprofit leadership is a safari. And so I talk through that lens. And that's a lot of what I do now. So that picture represents, I guess, sort of this new evolution of Steve.
Okay. Life is a safari. You're talking to leaders or whatever from the NGO space.
Yep.
I have a bit of experience in the NGO kind of world. You're in Ohio. You're giving a kind of inspirational talk, or what were the three things you wanted people to remember when they left?
Yeah, really. So it is an inspirational talk. The part that you see is called Inspire Next. That was the name of the segments that they were having us speak about. Yeah, it's really about, I guess the three pieces are, number one, life itself is an epic adventure. Not just the trips that we go on, not just the big moments, but life itself is an epic adventure.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? It's a good fit, right? and then the second piece is recognizing that the same things that make an African safari truly amazing are the same things that we can apply in our own life to make that amazing, in our life, our work, our leadership. I have the big five, that I talk about, but basically those are the two big things. And so then I just talk about, well, what are those things that make an African safari amazing, and how do we apply those to our life? And the reality is, when we do that, we have greater success in all areas of our life. We have greater happiness, all of those pieces. So that's really the crux of the talk.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, like when you're writing a movie screenplay, when you're writing a book, when you're writing a short story, typically how it works is one day, person X was living their lives. It was following a path, and then something happened. And all of a sudden, something happened. So what happened that suddenly you decided to veer off in this direction to inspire people?
Yeah, I mean, I had a massive anxiety attack, and I had never experienced that in my life at all. What happened is, for about 10 years, I was like questioning myself, because I had this really good life on paper. I had a good job, great company, wonderful marriage, 3 healthy kids, all of this stuff that, everybody would look at and say, wow, he's crushing life. But inwardly, I was so unhappy. And so for 10 years, I just kept trying to figure out, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? So I'd keep trying new things. I went back to school, got my MBA. I quit my job, went to work for a nonprofit. I started my own nonprofit. I started 4 different podcasts. I started a poker training site. Oh. I mean, I started, doing, because I was chasing that thing that would make me happy, And so I just kept doing that. And everybody's like, oh, wow, look at the successes, blah, blah, blah. But it was inwardly, I was just busier and I was more miserable. And so for 10 years, I was doing that, just chasing it. And my wife was like, what happened to old Steve? You're so unhappy. And I'm like, I know, I just got to figure out what I'm doing wrong and all that kind of stuff. And then it kind of came to a head in late 2018. I was sitting in my car outside my office building. It was 5 a.m. because I always went in super early, and I couldn't go in. I was paralyzed. I was sweating. I was crying. I wrote a note to my family to be in case I died. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I'd never experienced this. I couldn't move.
Oh, wow.
And I was always kind of anxiety, is it real? I know it sounds terrible, but I was always kind of like, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Let's go. That's Minnesota work ethic, and I just couldn't. And so that was the moment when then I realized I need to go see professional help and figure out what's going on here actually. And that's the moment. And then that led to the therapist kind of asking me the question that changed everything, which I write about in the book, which is just, what kind of life do you actually want? Because my whole life was all around trying to meet everybody's expectations. But that was the moment that then led me on this journey of rediscovery.
Okay, Steve, I'm going to downshift a little bit in the sense of, okay, so in 2009, after the financial crisis, I had my first panic attack. And, and how it manifested in me, and it happens like a first full on proper panic attack. It's that feeling of something bad is going to happen. I might die, and I kind of, I kind of checked into the hospital, and, they monitored me for a while. And since then I've been dealing with anxiety. So that's like more than 10 years. No, look, that's hard. Yeah. So basically when you say that, I connect with it quite well. And then the question is, I had a dear friend also asked me, well, but what do you want? And I couldn't answer. I can't answer, and so recently I wrote down, because journaling is an important part of self-help or whatever. I wrote down like 5 pages of what I want. Pie in the sky stuff. Yeah. So so I connect with you as a person, I'm looking at you right now. I know what that feels like. And it's debilitating, and it can be, it's very scary, and you were able through therapy to have that person change your point of view to kind of tackle a whole new kind of, and that was waiting there the whole time. It was just waiting for you to discover it.
Yeah.
So imagine there's a question in there.
Yeah. I mean, you nailed it, and you had this very similar experience. And I think, the question she asked, I mean, at half hour into our first session, I was just sharing why I was there, and she just said exactly that question. So what kind of life experience do you actually want to have? And I was kind of frustrated at first because I was like, aren't you listening to me? Like, I want to be happier. Like, don't you get it? And she nailed it. She just understood that my whole life, or at least the last 40 years or whatever, was all living based on what I was supposed to do, the expectations of others, the defaults, all that kind of stuff, what I was supposed to be doing. And she kind of nailed it. And then, she said, well, if you strip away all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and it's just you, what kind of like life experience do you want to have? Not even what do you want to do, but what kind of experiences, what kind of posture do you want to have to the world? What kind of feelings do you want to feel? And I like you, I just couldn't answer it. I just stared at her and said, I have no idea. I have no idea.
Right.
And so that was really the piece that dropped, that started me on that journey, like you, of saying, well, what do I actually want? And so through therapy and through that, I just started discovering what kind of emotions I want to have, what kind of people I want to be around, all of those pieces. And that's when it started morphing into like this African safari sort of thing. Like, what I realized is I want to live my life like it is an epic adventure. Because I'd been going on these African safaris during that same 10 years. I was going on these safaris, and those were amazing.
Oh, wow.
And I realized, so I had that going on. That was amazing. And then the rest of my life was miserable. And I was like, what is happening? And what I realized is on those African experiences, there's certain things that I was doing that was bringing me so much life that I wasn't doing in my regular life. And so that was kind of where I landed. And I realized I want to laugh more. I want to be creative. I want to do all these things that were there in my youth that got dampened by all the shoulds that I decided to follow.
Did you read a book called Repacking Your Bags?
No.
Have you read that? Sound familiar? No. I don't remember. Something Leader and Shapiro or something. Anyway, so the Repacking Your Bags essentially is about trying to define. Okay, so in the work that I've done in leadership consulting and all this stuff, one of the many things that or sources that we used was this book called Repacking Your Bags, which is the motif at the beginning of the book is basically the guy going to Africa with some Maasai, and having that person ask him basically a question of, what do you want to do and how do you understand your life? So it's interesting that that experience manifested for you so similarly in a way of going to Africa and going on these safaris.
Huh.
Now, on safari, aren't you supposed to be quite quiet and subdued?
Depending on what you're doing, right? I mean, yeah, a lot of the time you are.
Okay.
A lot of the time, but there's these, you have those moments where, you're hoping a black rhino comes out of the bush, or, I've had close encounters with mountain gorillas and all these things, and it's quiet. But then there's other times where, you're driving in the Jeep with the people and you're just, you're laughing about what happened, and you're watching a cheetah run at full speed and you're high-fiving, and, wow. It's kind of both. It's kind of both and, but there's this combination of, those quiet moments where you're like, anticipation, what's going to happen, these celebratory moments when something really cool happens, and just, these amazing moments where you're standing on the edge of the Ngorongoro crater, just not saying anything, just taking in this amazing view. So it's all of these different emotions, but I think the common thread is that you're just, at least for me, you're so fully present in that moment.
Right.
Like nothing else mattered. You're not checking your phone. You're not worrying about the next responsibility. You're just there with the people, living that experience, and it's just, that's it.
Very much. Sorry, I almost interrupted you.
Go ahead.
Try to.
I love it. I love
very
it.
much like being on stage from someone who knows.
100%.
When you're on stage, if you're not present, you're bombing. You're dying.
100%.
So you're super present.
And I think that's what I've been looking for in my life. I think that sort of piece, because I've always had an excuse to always be, all over here, a million responsibilities, a million things. And so, the opportunity, even like this, I have a meeting later after this or whatever, but I'm here. I'm not thinking about 12 other things. And I think that's where I come fully alive. And you mentioned sort of my energy. Yeah. This isn't my energy when I'm in the middle of 12 different things or whatever in the corporate world or whatever, because it's blah, 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 blah. But for some reason that for me, that triggers this energy when I can really be focused on what the moment.
Well, you're definitely present in the
He's
photograph.
Like, too much. You're too much.
No. Exactly the amount.
Bring it down.
Perfect amount. No, he loves it. He totally loves it. I'm just saying that as you're saying this, there's this photo of you looking at the audience. You can't see the audience.
Yeah.
All you can see is the stage that's behind you, which is dark, and there's the slide, and your hands are out in this action pose, and you're like, people, I'm here. Let's get inspired. I love it.
Yeah. It's so much fun, I think. And one of the things, what I've learned is, not to go on too much of a tangent, so you can cut me off if you want, but...
Tangent away.
Okay, well...
This whole thing's a tangent. It's all great.
In the speaking industry, it feels like there's generally, there's two categories of speakers. There's those who speak because they love to talk, and they always have something to say. And then there's the speakers, and I think I fall in the second camp, where it's like, we have a lot to say, we have a lot of experiences, a lot of insights, but we're not just going to talk. We're not going to force people to listen to us. You know what I mean? We're the kind of people, we're introverts. I'm an introvert, where if we're at a dinner party, I might not say a word the whole time. I might be perfectly content, but if everybody else is talking, I'm not going to jump in and say, I got a story, whatever. But there's this category of people, and I'm one of them, where I need permission to speak. And I think that's why I love speaking on stage. It's why I love doing podcasts, because I've got a lot to say. I've got a lot of experiences. It's probably why I wrote a book. But I'm not going to force myself in. So, but when somebody says, hey, I'd like to talk to you about your experiences or what you bring to the table, I'm like, yeah, let's go. You've given me, through this, you've given me permission to share my stories. Or when somebody says, hey, we'd like to have you come on and do a keynote talk, they've given me permission to now share my story. And I think I need that. And so I become fully alive in that, because I feel like I don't have this energy when I'm in a group of people and I feel like I'm interrupting and telling a story, and I feel like I'm making them listen to me, because I'm very apologetic then. I'm like, I'm sorry this is taking so long. I'm sorry this is taking so long. Because I feel like, do they really want me to share? Whereas somebody says, we want you to share, then I'm like, okay, now I feel like I can be fully confident in what I have to say.
Right. It's that young people pleaser. Now, because of that, we need to move on to the next photo, because this thing is just trucking along. Yeah. I'm so excited to see what you've got in store. So is life really a gift? Really? Can you make every second count? That's the whole point of the podcast. So if you like what you've seen and you're inspired, because that really is my mission, then please
give it a like, subscribe, and share.
Shooting it raw?
Yes, shooting it raw.